Well, you're most welcome to join me on my YouTube channel today. My name's Chris. We're here just having a look at the former RAF Bolt Head. We're looking down the main runway, which was just ran along where the track is here to East Salt Farm, and at its longest, the runway ran out to the edge of the cliffs, almost 1,500 yards. Yeah, the P47 Thunderbolt. This aircraft, I think, without doubt, was the heaviest, fastest single-seater fighter of the Second World War. And one of these aircraft landed here at RAF Bolt Head on the 7th of May 1944. And this really was where my interest started. And you'll hear from some of the pilots that flew them, and the fact that this aircraft they could get it off not much more than 1,000 yards, fully loaded on some occasions when they had to, flying off airstrips very much like the one at RAF Bolt Head, which was an advanced landing ground. And I hope you sit tight, enjoy the film, and look forward to your comments. All the very best. It's really interesting. Extremely heavy aircraft at fully loaded was almost 8 tons, and as you see from it in the film, it is an extremely large aircraft, but very well loved by all the pilots that flew it.
My name is Charles Morley. I was a World War II fighter pilot, flew in England and France. I flew a P47 Thunderbolt. This airplane had an 18-cylinder, 2,000 horsepower engine in it. It had 4 50 caliber machine guns in each wing, so a total of 8 guns. Under each wing on that pylon, we could hang as much as a 1,000-pound bomb, a 500-pound one on the belly. And in the wings, we carried 4,000 rounds of armor-piercing incendiary 50 caliber bullets like that. One of these things will go all the way through an automobile, including the engine, and start a fire. When you squeeze the trigger to fire the guns, all 8 guns fired at once, and you put out 96 of those a second. Something in front of you is going to get hurt real bad. There's a railroad on the ground down there with a train on the tracks. Right there is the engine. Those little white spots you see right in the cab of the engine, that's where bullets from all 8 of my guns came to a point, and the thing is beginning to explode. It's unlikely that anyone survived that. When I fired that burst, I'm coming at it out here about 500 feet above the ground at 300 miles an hour. That's 250 yards in front of my airplane. And all it took to blow that engine up wasn't even a 1-second burst. It's like, and it's all over. That's the remains of a German marshalling yard. They brought these boxcars in, loaded them up, hooked an engine to them, took them out. This photograph was taken by a very low-flying P-38 photo recon airplane 4 hours after we went by and dive-bombed the place. hit by a 20 millimeter anti-aircraft shell like that blew the hole in the tail. The hole is not the problem. The problem here was that big piece of metal blown down there acted as a giant trim tab. And the airplane kept trying to climb, and I had to fly it with both hands jammed against the stick to hold the nose down, part of the time with my foot on it, because 45 minutes of that was really worse. The worst I got hit, I wish I had pictures of this, but I don't. The worst I got hit, I'm coming back from a mission into the Ruhr Valley in Germany. I'm about 8,000 feet, and an 88 millimeter anti-aircraft shell blew up under the wing and rolled the plane. You've seen this is a 20 millimeter, an 88 millimeter is about that long. And when one of those things goes off near you, you sure know it. It blew up under the wing and rolled the plane. I got it righted just as the next one hit the engine cowling. It blew a cylinder and two cylinder heads off the engine, and the thing kept running for 40 minutes, long enough to get me behind the American lines, so when I crashed, I didn't get captured. We got back to the little town of Chalon-sur-Marne, a grass airfield east of Paris, where we intended to land and refuel. I put the landing gear handle down, and the right wheel dropped down and locked. I couldn't get it back up because there was no hydraulic pressure, which meant that I couldn't use the flaps to land, and there was no left landing gear at all. The first shell had jammed it in the wheel well. We had a controller down on the ground, a guy with a microphone sitting in a Jeep, and I called down and asked for permission to land, and that controller told me, "I don't want that wreck on my field. You go away from here and bail out. We'll come pick you up." I was scared to bail out and decided to land it anyway. I came in about 185 miles an hour and just set it down very gently on one wheel, held the wing up as long as I could. It dropped down, dug into the dirt, and spun the plane like that, and I never got a scratch. P-47 is the best fighter plane ever built, as far as I'm concerned.
My name is Richard Gibeon. I was born in Montgomery, Alabama, 10/22/19, and I'm going to be 92 next Saturday. I went through high school. In 37, I entered Georgia Tech, graduated, was in the class of 41, didn't finish till February 42, and the war had started, and I volunteered for the cadet program. Got my wings in December 42. And against my wishes, I wanted to go to fighters. They made an instructor out of it, so I instructed for a little over a year. Eagle Pass, Texas. We called it Brooks's Gulch. And in AT-6s. Stayed there. I bitched the whole time about not being able to get out and fight her. And finally the order came through asking for fighters just before D-Day, and I volunteered and ended up in England and with the 373rd Fighter Group. And after D-Day we went to Beachhead strip in Normandy. Mm-hmm. And they transferred us to St. James and to Reims, France, and to Louvain, Belgium. And then I ended up at Venlo, Holland, which was right on the German border. But we followed the troop and tried to ease up the problems. You know, we tried to shoot the Germans that were holding them back, and we dive bombed everything from factories to airfields, bridges, trains, whatever. And P-47 had 850 caliber machine guns, and if you hit something with those 8 machine guns, it was gone. It was a real powerful airplane. When I first saw it and first flew it, I thought, well, it's a clunker. But I found out it was easy to fly, and it wasn't a glamour-looking airplane like P-51. But turned out to be a first-class airplane. Loaded, it was about 14,000 pounds. Had a twin-row radial, 18-cylinder engine with 2,000 horsepower with water injection. Very poor runways, you know. Sometimes it was dirt, sometimes it was pierce planking, and they were always short. Go uphill for a while and downhill for a while. And if you were really loaded, you would get on the very end of the runway, you'd run up the engine full throttle, you'd punch water injection, you would just having brakes on, of course. And as soon as you turn the brakes loose, you'd pop the tail up and hope the thing would get off the ground. And when you got off the ground, the end of the runway was right behind you. And you say, whew, that's the worst part of the trip. All we got to do now is fly a mission, see. Usually flew about 10,000 feet. Came through asking for fighters just before D-Day, and I volunteered, and ended up in England and with the 373rd Fighter Group. And after D-Day, we went to Beachhead strip in Normandy. Mm-hmm. Then they transferred us to St. James and to Reims, France, and to Louvain, Belgium, and then I ended up at Venlo, Holland, which was right on the German border. But we followed the troops and tried to ease up their problems, you know. We'd try to shoot the Germans that were holding them back, and we dive bombed everything from factories to airfields, to bridges, and trains, whatever. And P47 had 850 caliber machine guns, and if you hit something with those 8 machine guns, it was gone. Real powerful airplane. When I first saw it and first flew it, I thought, well, this is a clunker. But I found out it was easy to fly, and it wasn't a glamour-looking airplane like P-51. But it turned out to be a first-class airplane. Loaded, it was about 14,000 pounds. Had a twin-row radial, 18-cylinder engine with 2,000 horsepower with water injection. Very poor runways, you know. Sometimes it was dirt, sometimes it was pierce planking, and they were always short. Go uphill for a while and downhill for a while. And if you were really loaded, you would get on the very end of the runway, you'd run up the engine full throttle, you'd punch water injection, you would just having brakes on, of course. And as soon as you turn the brakes loose, you pop the tail up and hope the thing would get off the ground. And when you got off the ground, the end of the runway was right behind you. And you say, whew, that's the worst part of the trip. All we got to do now is fly a mission, see.
I really hope you've enjoyed this very brief look at the P47 Thunderbolt, and thank you for sticking with me. Look forward to seeing you on the next one. Do have a think about subscribing. Take the greatest of care. Cheers for now.